Hey y'all, my name is Shane, and this is my final project for the Contemporary Approaches to Leadership class. Here's the thing, leadership is a word that is thrown around in organizations and in church circles all of the time. Being a leader is something that so many want to be, but people don't necessarily know how to do it. It's also an extremely coveted position. People want to be leaders. People want to be a leader in title as well. So what is leadership? See, leadership is so important in this world. It's important in businesses, cultures, churches, and in families. Leadership is so important to understand, but I think in order for us to understand leadership a little bit better, we need to understand what it is not. See, Todd Bolsinger, he is the writer of Canoeing the Mountains. It's an amazing leadership book. He has this really interesting look at leadership, and I want to read it to you. This is what it says. It says, leadership is not authority. It is not a title or position that a person holds. Leadership is different from management. Leadership is not running good meetings, keeping good books, overseeing good programs, or making good policies, as important as those are. Management cares for what is. Leadership is focused on what can be and what must be. Management is about keeping a promise to a constituency. Leadership is about organizations fulfilling a mission and realizing its reason for being. Leadership doesn't mean titles or authorities. Leadership is not measured by corner offices with heavy furniture and high salaries with august job descriptions. To be authorized or to have titles does not equate to leadership. Leadership is a way of being in an organization, a family, team, company, church, business, or nation, or any other system that people have to tackle through challenges and thrive. Leadership is expressed in behavior. Leadership acts. Leadership functions. Leadership is mostly expressed in action, relationships, and responsibilities. See, so many of us, myself included, we look at leadership as the shiny job titles, those cool little things, those CEOs, managers, and diplomats. So many of us don't necessarily, we see the job, but we don't necessarily see what's behind the job, the leadership behind the job. So many of us don't necessarily see what happens on the ground floor. See, leadership is so much bigger than a job, bigger than an organization. Leadership is about relationship with people. Barry Posner, he says in the Leadership Challenge that leadership is a relationship between leaders and followers. That's what it is. So what's truly effective leadership? Leadership has been studied with hundreds of books, through hundreds of podcasts, through sermons and illustrations, and leadership is something that people want to know more and more about. But I think there's two forms of leadership that really bring out what true and real leadership is. And that's authentic and servant leadership. Authentic and servant leadership. See, what makes these two so doggone special? What makes them so real and so different from others? Well, here's the thing. Authentic leadership seems like it might be an easy leadership to understand, but it's actually pretty difficult. It's a complex process and difficult to characterize. That's what Peter Northouse says. It's difficult to fully understand. It has multiple definitions and so many different viewpoints and emphasis. Authentic leadership is important to understand what it is, though. And here's what Peter says. He says, authentic leaders have a real sense of purpose. They are passionate individuals who have a deep-seated interest in what they are doing, and they truly care about their work. Authentic leaders are relational leaders who strive to make their followers better leaders themselves. They are good at making authentic connection. Authentic leaders, they want to help other leaders reach their goals and become excellent. They have self-discipline to stay on top of things. They're motivated. And they help motivate their followers to carry out the tasks and job at hand. See, Peter says again, he says, compassion and heart are important and the most important aspects of authentic leadership. It's huge. And there was a review that was done that had 4 different components of authentic leadership. These 4 are self-awareness, internalized moral perspective, balanced processing, and relational transparency. And see, being able to understand these 4 different components is really important when it comes to authentic communication. First, looking at self-awareness. It's the ability for a leader to understand who they are and understand themselves. A leader needs to understand how they impact other people, how they're impacting their followers. They need to know what their weaknesses and strengths, their values, identity, and emotions are. They need to understand their innermost being. Leaders with self-awareness are able to trust their feelings and understand who they are on the deepest level of the core of their being. See, Peter Northouse says again, when leaders know themselves and have a clear sense of who they are and what they stand for, they have a strong anchor for their decisions and for their actions. Leaders need to know who they are, and they need to know how to express themselves well to the people that are following them. When a leader can recognize what is inside of them and what is motivating their internal being, what is motivating their actions, they have the ability and confidence. They can have the ability and the confidence to lead people like nobody else can lead. It allows them to be more authentic. The second is this internalized moral perspective. And see, it kind of piggybacks this idea of self-awareness, but it goes a little bit more in depth. It really starts to focus on the morals and the values and what is driving the decisions that a leader is making. It's taking a look at who I am at the core, why I make the decisions that I make, the morals and the standards that I have for my life. It can be so easy for a leader to allow these external pressures of the world come and influence their decisions instead of their gut and their values and their morals. An authentic leader listens to the core of those decisions, listens to those morals and values when they are making those important decisions with their followers. The third thing is balanced processing. See, this refers to individuals' ability to analyze information objectively and explore other people's opinions in making decisions. But see, not only that, it's also about not showing favoritism to people's opinions, not looking at some opinions as stronger than other opinions just because of the people that are expressing them. See, being able to make sound decisions is vitally important for an authentic leader, but they have to be able to take in the opinions of their followers. They have to be able to take in the beliefs and the ideas and understand that there is room for more thought than just their own. They got to be willing to take advice and ask for help from other people. Empower the follower. That's what balanced processing is all about. Having people impact the decision the leader is making. And the fourth thing is relational transparency. A leader being able to be honest and truthful to others about oneself. Being able to be honest about what is going on in their life, who they are, how they think, what's going on. When a leader can be relationally aware enough to be transparent and allow people in, allow their followers in, it's a game changer. Being vulnerable and real with followers allows trust to be built, respect to grow between the two parties. A leader being able to communicate their heart and their beliefs in a real way is so important. See, in this, the Leadership Challenge, he expresses, you have to express your authentic self, genuinely communicating your beliefs in a way that is uniquely represents who you are. We have to be able to say who we are and what's going on in our hearts. Relational transparency also means that a leader is willing to show both their positive and negative aspects of themselves. They don't always have their garbage together. They have garbage in their lives, and they're willing to show that to people. We need to be able to show followers our struggles and what is going on. See, at the end of the day, Peter Northouse, he talks about what authentic relationship, what authentic leadership really is. And he says authentic leadership is a complex process that emphasizes the development of qualities that help leaders to be perceived as trustworthy and believable by their followers. The leader's job is to learn to develop these qualities and apply them in a common good to serve others. Authentic leadership is about the service to other people. It's about serving people around you. And that's why servant leadership is just as important, because it gets left out sometimes with this authentic relationship, and they go hand in hand. And servant leadership is known as a paradox and can seem like a paradox because leadership and servanthood seem to be polar opposites at times. But servant leadership is all about putting the person that is following you ahead of yourself. It empowers the follower first. It helps the follower develop and helps the follower realize their personal characteristics that can grow and change the world. It's helping the follower be the best person that they possibly can be. See, servant leadership, there's this book written by Aubrey Malphurs, and it's called Building Leaders, and she says it simply. She says Christian leadership is servant leadership. Christian leadership is servant leadership because Christian leadership is all about putting others above yourself. See, Jesus says in Matthew 20, he calls together the disciples and he says, you know that the rulers in this world lord it over their people. The officials flaunt their authority over those under them, but among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be a servant, and whoever wants to be the first among you must be your slave. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve others and to give his life for a ransom to many. Jesus states the point that leadership means servanthood. So what does it mean to lead? What does it mean to be an authentic leader? It means to serve the people around you. Jesus didn't come to be served, so we shouldn't be looking to come and be served. We should be serving like Jesus serves. That's our job. See, Malphurs says this. She says, servant leadership is the humble service to others based on our love for them. And Jesus teaches his disciples that servant leaders lead humbly. The emphasis is on the leader's humility and not their ego. Leadership is not about our ego, people's ego. It is about serving and being a service to people. Leadership isn't all about us. Leadership is all about people. And when leaders serve and are authentic, it helps their followers understand who the leader is and how they are going to act. And it inspires the same kind of thing. It inspires followers to be authentic and servants as well. One of the best forms that I've seen this is actually my senior pastor and my boss, Nate Petzel. He's the lead pastor at Faith Chapel in Billings, Montana, and truly one of the greatest leaders that I've ever gotten to serve under. And he is an authentic and a servant leader at the core of who he is. And it's not only felt by me, but it's felt by his congregation, it's felt by students, it's felt by his staff, it's felt by so many people. See, I get the privilege of serving high school students and being high school pastor. And we got to go to camp this year, unlike a lot of the country. But in Montana, we were able to go up to camp and have an amazing experience. And I got to watch as Nate, as he's leading in the middle of this very difficult season in 2020, he got to lead up at camp. He came up to camp and he served and was authentic to young people. I watched as he changed students' lives. I watched as he got up and he preached and he was real on stage. He was being vulnerable to students on stage. And then after that, that's where the authentic leadership kicked in, was after his sermon. It didn't have much to do with his sermon. It was when he was willing to go and sit down with these high school students, love them right where they were, listen to their stories, listen to their hurts and problems. He even came and talked to our student ministries team, and he looked at us and he said, I can't believe what these students are going through. They're going through so many life challenges and so many hurts and struggles, so many things that many of us didn't go through. But he was willing to sit there and learn and listen. And not only that, but not many senior pastors are willing to go into the kitchen every morning before everybody else is awake and go and make pancakes with the kitchen crew. Go in and clean toilets and wash sinks for the students. And every morning I would see Nate in the kitchen. I'd see Nate cleaning restrooms. I would see Nate serving our staff, myself, students, volunteers. He was real. He had expectations, but he was real. He didn't use that authority, and he didn't strut around acting like the leader of the camp like he could have. He served everybody on that campus. He was real to each and every one of us. He wasn't afraid to share his heart. And he wasn't afraid to be empathetic to students and help push them to a relationship with Jesus. He is a servant leader. He is an authentic leader. That's who he is. And I know for me, there's a lot for me to learn when it comes to authentic and servant leadership. There's a lot of things that I know I have to look at when it comes to myself. You know, I feel like I have pretty good self-awareness, but I know that it's been really easy for me to fall into complacency. And I didn't see that. It took another leader coming up to me and expressing it to me. And I've got to be able to look deep inside of what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing inside and be able to express that to the people around me. And I haven't been good at that. My internal moral perspective, I feel like I've done all right with. I go with my gut a lot of the times, which is built on my values and my morals, and I won't go against it. But getting encouragement from the people around me, being able to find the right people to encourage me to be able to stand strong, because sometimes I want to fall into that trap of being a people pleaser. And it keeps me from having that internal moral perspective every once in a while. But balanced processing is probably the toughest one for me, because I just want to make a decision and go instead of really listening to the people around me, and not just listening to the people that I have bias towards or a good relationship with, but listening to everybody's voice, because everybody brings something to the table. But also having relational transparency with the leaders. Y'all, I'm not good at asking for help. And there's been seasons in this last year where it's been a real struggle and I haven't been transparent to leaders. In fact, it's been really easy for me to just lead and not worry about anything else going on. I've got to be willing to share more of my life. I want to be more of a leader like Nate. I want to be an authentic and servant leader. I want to be able to influence people. And I truly believe being an authentic and servant leader, being a humble leader, being a leader who serves with authenticity, is a leadership that will change the world. Leaders function, leaders act, and leadership is mostly expressed in action, relationship, and responsibility. Authentic leadership and servant leadership are truly life-changing for both the leader and for the follower, if they are used correctly and if they are done